Do you think that before the 7th grade, the person that you were that had all the mixed friends and just sort of never even thought about that, do you feel like that's your authentic self? And then you sort of had to split that up to sort of fit in when you started realizing, oh, God, these people are going to not want me to be this thing that I am, and these people are going to not want me to be this other thing that I am. I'm always trying to be like, it's not tragic to be a mulatto, and we are black and white, and we're not saying that we're better than black people, and all of that is good and well, but it doesn't mean that we're not affected by all of those things. And I'm wondering there's got to be some fallout to this situation. And I don't ever want to make it sound like I am feeding into the tragic mulatto stereotype. But it does everyone a disservice if we're not honest in saying there are racial issues in this country, and I think they affect you and I on a deeper level than they affect someone who's monoracial.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's worth looking at, and that's worth breaking the cycle of that. I don't ever want to make it sound like it was so sad, it was so hard, it's so confusing. But it is in a way.
Because adolescence...
And who isn't confused?
Yeah.
No matter what you are.
Adolescence is confusing for everybody.
Right.
Like, my mom, she supported me through... She made sure that I was, like, comfortable with who I was and I understood other parts of my ethnicity. But then, like, I think she just thought I was fine because I was fine for so long. But then once I got to adolescence and all these changing environments, then it was like, oh, everything is so different. And I wasn't getting, the reinforcement from my family. So I was kind of dealing with it on my own because they didn't realize. And that's something, if, like, parents, if they have, like, a mixed kid, yeah, okay, you want to read them stories that have black people in them and white people in them when they go to bed. But what about when they're past age 6? What about when they're 15? That's when you can lose your kids to negative influences because they just can't deal with everything that's going on hormonally, and it's not their fault. So, I mean, definitely, like, if parents stay aware, because I think a lot of parents, they lose touch with their kids in adolescence because they're just so used to their kids doing their thing. Their kids are on a schedule, the parents are on a schedule, whatever, and they think by that time, oh, if I can leave my kid home alone, then my kid's fine. But in reality, that's when, like, if negative things are happening outside the home, the kid's going to turn on the parent. They're going to become more withdrawn. They're going to try to hide how they feel because one thing that really, really used to bother me is, like, okay, so I went to C Home. And then the next year, I went to Groves.
Oh, okay? You did?
Yeah, because I was like, get me out of here. I was like, this is too insular for me racially. So I go to Groves, and Groves was, like, a little closer to Southfield, and they had more diverse population a little bit.
I never knew that.
Yeah, they had, like, 100 black kids. Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, so I went there, and then, like, I have, like, most of my friends were black, and it was, like, when I first went there, the guidance counselor was black. She introduced me to all these other black girls. Oh, go hang out with them. I'm going to show you around. And that's how it started. And so, like, my friends would be like, oh, let's go to the movies in Southfield. So I remember feeling so guilty because I didn't want my grandmother to pick me up. I didn't want the black kids to see me get picked up by an old white lady.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I would feel like that a lot. And that is, like, the guilt, like, a 15-year-old would have from feeling that way, trying to hide their own family for what? So they don't get laughed at or something? It's just, like, that's kind of intense. And, yeah, I felt really guilty about it. But, I mean, I think part of that is just adolescence. It's the weakness that we have when we're that age. Because, like, once you're an adult, you don't care who sees you with who. No. You just don't care. You're like, this is my friend. Who cares if he only has one leg? But...
Well, I mean, some people still do care, but...
Well, I know. But,
right.
Like, at that time, just to be, like, embarrassed, of my own family for nothing.
What are some of your observations about reverse racism? I think there's a lot of... I think it's equal on the other side, in a way.
Yeah, okay, well, I first of all, I have a real issue with the term reverse racism because I don't think there's a reverse racism. There's
Racism is racism, right.
That's it. Against races. It's not like only white people can be racist or whatever. So the reverse is not a good term, and I wish people would lose it.
I will.
But, yeah, my grandmother used to always accuse me of that when I was that age, or still sometimes. I don't know why you go against your own family, where are your people? Yes, I'm not saying that, okay? So, yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of racism from every direction. And I think with Black people, obviously it goes back to their situation in this country and being denied advancement, as far as like the conversation around reparations for slavery, which obviously are never going to happen. There's still that dialogue. Mm-hmm. Black people want to have that conversation because it's like, yeah, what happened to that? Because it comes down to an inheritance of poverty. As opposed to, okay, well, they're like, oh, well, we're giving jobs to people of all different races. True, now, but there's a resentment because of the inheritance of poverty. Whereas white people could inherit wealth for their work over the course of hundreds of years, Black people couldn't. So Black people basically were stagnated. They were institutionally stagnated even after slavery.
Well after.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, and all those, all the work and all the toil and all this work that slaves did, they were never able to build a house and leave it to their kids. The plantation owner left it to his kids. And
not his black kids, though.
Right, not his mulatto, his house Negroes. So that's why there's always going to be an issue there. Even as things progress, there's still going to be, look at the projects. It's mainly Black people there. And also, it's true, like, that whole mentality of like, oh, I can never have anything, I can never be good enough, so I may as well just throw it away. That is a mentality that people fall into a lot, and it's just normal. And when you look at other people that have so much, or you think that they have so much, and they have this perfect life, of course, you're gonna have an attitude, and you're gonna feel like, damn, if I was in their shoes, I would have that life. So, I mean, it does build racism.
Do you feel that you have a unique perspective on race, being multiracial?
Definitely.
What do you think about reparations?
I feel like the reason why we have so many racial issues in this country to this day is because slavery and racism and, killing and beating and hunting Black people was institutionalized in the U.S. Constitution. So it's the very fabric of who this country was to exploit, use, and murder people. And so the government has to take responsibility for it. I know all those people are dead. Everyone's dead. But that pain is still woven into the very essence of this country. And it's the government's responsibility to say, hey, that was unspeakable, terrible, we're really sorry. Please forgive us in time. And that's just, that's what it comes, it's a respect thing. If you can't even apologize, if you beat someone...
You can't even admit.
Exactly. Then...
It's like, oh, they should be happy to be in this country.
Exactly. You're always asking for something, you Black folks. That's been the attitude traditionally, and Black people, that's white people will still, even my grandmother, oh, you're always on the other side, oh, that was so long ago, oh, who cares anymore? Well, people care, because, if it was your family...
It's still holding them back.
Exactly. So I think the government needs to make a big apology, and it's like, because it's been so long, it's like they almost have to do more. If they had just come correct a long time ago, everybody would have forgot. But the government's the one setting the example. When they institutionalize slavery, then that gives everybody else a right to act, oh, well, you're 2/3 of a person.
Right.
Or whatever. So,
they're an institutionalized dehumanization of a group of people.
Exactly. Or you can hunt them down.
Based on their skin color.
Dogs. They can't have any...
They are animals. They're monkeys.
They can't have their own... You can take their children away. That's just so foul. to take someone's child away and sell them is like one of the worst crimes of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the government to just never, ever, ever, ever take responsibility for it and just always put it on the black people in this country is just wrong. And I think that's why a lot of black people have self-esteem issues. You know, it's just been there so long that some people just don't know how to get out from under it. That's just how it is.
I just don't get like all this, I don't know, not willing to share.
What was this book I read? I forget. But I'm sure you've heard the theory, like, you know, they always say, well, white people are scared of black people. And they always have been. And that's why they've done so much to just put them down and keep them mentally subjugated over the years. You know, honestly, that's a part of it. Like, you can't take a huge issue like eugenics and break it down to like one thing, but you can discuss all the different things, however comedic or tragic they might be. And honestly, I mean, I do see some truth in that. Number one, white men are intimidated by black men because there's people that'll try to deny, but you can't deny. Black people are the most athletic people in the world.
That is not racist, people.
Yeah, that's a fact. Any sport black people want to take on, they will dominate it if they want to take it on. And they do it one by one, fight their way into the league one by one by one. Okay, now we're in golf. Black people are the most athletic people. They're like, I mean, I know like the tallest man in the world is from China, but Chinese people are not the tallest people. Like the most athletic, physically fit, tallest people overall, most muscular people overall are African people and their descendants. Okay. Now, I've had white people from Birmingham say, oh, black people are just so inferior because they're the fattest people, they're the dumbest people. Bullshit.
Who opened their mouth to say that to you?
This white girl from Birmingham. I was with my boyfriend too. He was biracial. He was like, we're never going out with her again. Like, I know. But and some people think that. Okay, they're not the fattest people. They're fat because those people you're looking at are poor because you don't know black people because you're from Birmingham. And so the only images you see are poor people. Well, it doesn't matter where you're from. Poor people get fat because they have crappy food and stress. That's what that's from. Rich people are skinny, poor people are fat. Go figure. But, I mean, okay, back to the black thing and the fear. So, yeah, okay, if I was a white man and I first got to Africa, I'd be scared shitless. I have my gun pointed at everybody because that's all they had was the gun, you know, against a black guy. The black people are just so much more physical. And then they try to say, okay, fine, you're more physical. Well, we're smarter. But now, after all these years of not educating black people, not letting them read, things like that to make sure they're stupid, now that black people can go and get an education and do what they want to do, and yeah, there's still like a lot of people who are stuck mentally. There's a lot of black people who are succeeding and becoming very, very successful. It's just a matter of time, you know. And so that just proves that wrong too. Black people aren't stupid. You know, you've got black people who are geniuses, neurosurgeons, everybody.
Yeah.
So not only is that wrong, the athleticism, you know, I think, and then let's not talk about genitals. At the end of the day, black men have the biggest penis. I'm sorry I have to say that on YouTube.